What's cracking, me, Kent? You guys know this your boy D once again, ready to come by some love and a little bit of knowledge. Today, I have a good topic for you guys, a good video. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Today, I'm gonna be talking about myself a little bit. Why did I become an MS gang member? How did I become a gang member? And what did I learn throughout these whole years of gang banging, my time in prison, or what brought me to change my way and my life around when I came home after doing all that time. Some people could say it was because I got tired. Some people could say because the game changed. Some people can say different things. They can speculate, but they don't know. The only person who knows everything is myself. So I'll be indulging you guys today with a little bit of my life history. Not the one from El Salvador, how come I became to know and why did I become a MS13 gang member here in San Francisco, California. With that being said, don't forget to hit that like, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and most definitely don't forget to leave a comment, because you guys know I always answer you guys back. If you guys got a question, hit me up, let me know. So as I told you guys on the last video I did, when I told you guys about me growing up in El Salvador, right? I told you guys how I grew up and how I see the gangs over there and the knowledge that I had the gangs. Of course, I told you guys before, I have family members that were gang members. I have family members that belong to both gangs, actually, to 18th Street. And I have co-founders and founders of MS13 Stoner cliques. And I also have co-founders of the 20th Street clique. But what brought me to jump into the clique was because all my family was from MS, or was because the majority of the family was from MS. Let me rephrase that, because I had cousins from 18 as well, and I had cousins that were Northerners. But what probably, or what led me to take that route to go MS, right? So once I got here to the United States, as you guys know, most of us people that come from our motherlands don't speak English, right? We don't have the English language, and when we start learning it, sometimes to this day, I can honestly say I have an accent, and people could tell I have an accent. And sometimes when I'm angry or when I get pissed off, it comes out more stronger than usually when I'm talking normal. But my accent comes out when I'm really, really pissed off. I start talking really fast, and my accent gets really thick. So you guys, it's hard to understand that. Well, when I got to middle school here, I started seeing that people had their own little cliques, right? A lot of them were Mexicans, kids that were born here, that know a little to known Spanish, and they used to mock us, like a lot of Central Americans, Salvadorians, Guatemalans, Hondurans, even some Mexicans, but most of it was the Central American. We kept within each other's group, so if you were from Central America or you were from El Salvador, you will always see us together. That's one thing about Salvadorian people, they always stick together, and that's one thing we always like. We look out for each other. So when I started going to school, man, middle school, I started seeing the discrimination that we will get from the Mexican American people, from the little kids. And I'm not saying this to put down Mexicans or put down Americans. I'm not doing it with that intent at all. I'm just doing it with the intent to let you guys know what I experienced, what I went through, basically. So throughout the years, we started seeing mocking. We started seeing people that will make fun of us because of how we would pronounce the words, the accent we would have. Sometimes we would dress like we were still in El Salvador, and we didn't have the finest shoes or the finest clothes. Sometimes we still used to wear Pumas or Adidas, while they were over here wearing Jordan, Nikes, or things like that. Americanized, right? So they were always used to mock us. Oh, why you got those cheap ass shoes? Over here is Nike, over here is Jordan. And once you're a kid, you start to feel a little bit pressure. You start to feel a little bit like, damn, why this kid's always picking on us? Like, why this kid's always minimizing us? What do we do to deserve this, right? But it was not more about that. It was like the influence that the parents had and people in their community. It was more than that. It was just like the little style that they had developed to try to minimize everybody else. And you could tell who was with amongst those people because of the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. So I noticed that right away. So, like I said, I come from a family of gang members, so I learned at the early age to distinguish who was what and what was with, because we learn from the early age. You should know, you should not get to know who your enemy is. At least that's what I was taught. You should know who your enemy is before you even approach them or anything like that, right? But at the same time, you should also know the people that call themselves your friends, because not everybody is your friends at the end of the day. And that's one thing I learned the hard way, because every time we used to always think that somebody was a friend, we either got betrayed or something like that. The reason why was because, like I said, man, people always happen to make fun of us or would do stupid stuff. At first, I took it like they're just kids just like me, but then after a while, it started to become noticeable that they were just on some bully shit, like just trying to minimize us and put us down. So I was like, okay, if that's how they feel, then that's how they feel. So eventually, I run around older people than me, like probably 3 or 4 years older. They have been in the country for a long time. That was Salvadorian as well, and they used to wear blue. And I started distinguishing that some group used to wear red, some group used to wear blue. I didn't understand the meaning of the colors at that time yet, right? I knew the gang culture in LA and the gang culture, but here in Northern California, it was new to the color thing. Over there was numbers and letters. Over here was colors. It was also numbers as well, but I wasn't hip to that. So once I started seeing that these kids would like bang out, and then I started seeing them jumping people, taking the lunch money or taking the lunch, I would see them fight just because they think one of us looked at their girl wrong or whatever. They will always look for any little excuse that you can think of to start up any problems. They were just looking for excuse. It didn't matter if we were out there in a courtyard playing soccer and we were winning. They would accuse us of cheating and they would start trying to fight us. If we were playing soccer and you put him between somebody's leg, like on the tunnel, what we call it, they will get mad and they will punch you or they will sweep you and hit you right on the leg because they get offended that we were being show off, right? So it became to the point where we're like, okay, it has to stop Sunday and somewhere, because we cannot be allowed to be getting beat up all the time or jumped on, our lunch money taken, or our lunch getting thrown away in the garbage can just because they feel like they can do it, right? So and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this because to make myself look tougher or to make myself better. But one thing I never allowed somebody to do to me was take my lunch or take my money. And the reason why it was so hard for me to allow that to take place was because I knew how hard my mom was working to give me that. So to me, it was more of a pride that I felt like I was letting my mom down if I allowed them to take my lunch money or my lunch, because my mom had 4 kids that she had to feed. So if I allowed them to take my weekly money for my lunch, then I was fucked. I wasn't gonna be able to eat no lunch because she couldn't make lunch for us because she had 2 jobs. In order to keep us well fed and going to school, she had to work 2 jobs. We rarely saw her. Like, she would work in the morning and she would work at nighttime. So by the time we were out the door, she was coming in for her second job. So she didn't have enough time to cook us a meal and prepare us a lunch. There will be times when she get there a little bit earlier and she will make us lunch. But that was the reason why she used to give us $10, $15 for us so it could last us the whole week. I remember she used to give me $10 for a whole week, and I was happy camper because $10 used to make me last me for a whole week. I could eat lunch for the whole week and then still get a soda or a chip once school let out if I wanted to, right? So I felt privileged enough that my mom, so other kids that were coming from our country, their mom wasn't working or they only had their dad working and they wouldn't give them money. They would make lunch for them So sometimes I used to be like, I'll get you something if you give me that, right? One thing I always used to trade for were like, I don't know if you guys know this, but the bolillos, the bread, basically the long bread. And I used to like when they used to put like egg and beans with cream inside. Huevos con frijoles, we used to call it. Huevos con frijoles, eggs with beans. And the pan francés, the bolillo, whatever you guys want to call it. That for me was like, I could eat that every day. No problem. So if somebody was taking that, I would be like, hey, I get you some lunch if you trade two of those for me, and I just get the juice. So back then, the lunch wasn't that expensive what it is in high school, or what it was in high school when I was going on. I still remember in high school back in the days, I used to pay like $2.50 for like a box of. They used to sell the lunch boxes. It had to put the French fries with the little chicken nuggets. That was $2.50 right there, and the little apple juice was like $1. So $3.50 for a whole lunch. You're set. But that was back then. Nowadays, man, I remember when the school bus that we used to take used to be 25 cents. That's how cheap it was back then when I was going to school. We used to take the school bus with 25 cents, a quarter. And then it went up to 50 cents, right? Or to 35 cents to 50 cents. I remember something like that. Now, last time I took the train, it was like you have to put then your $10 in the clipper just to come back and forward if you want to go somewhere. It's like $2.50 for the damn pass. I remember back then that shit wasn't that much, man. Nowadays, if you pay for the bus, if you want to get the long bus, like the ticket for the whole day was $1. $1 for the whole day bus ride. And you could jump into any bus you want, Muni, bus, the train, anything for a whole dollar. Nowadays, for one of those long days, I'm hearing that you pay like $5 or like $6. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell happened? So, see, that's how I don't know how cheap it was back then, man. Like, I remember the chocolate chip cookies used to be 2 for a quarter, or 4 for $1. I think it was like 2 for a quarter and 4 for 50 cents, and it was 6 or 8 for $1. Something like that. I remember how much it was. I can't remember it clearly, but I remember it was something like that, similar. So it wasn't that expensive as it is back to nowadays, man. So to me, that was my pride. That was something that I always used to get jumped for, because they were always trying to find out where I used to stash my money. Because they would see me buy lunch, but they couldn't. Every time they would run up on me and they would jump me, they couldn't find my money. Because I was always taught, since I saw my uncle selling dope and hustling, I used to put my money either on my sock, or like, but not like just right there on the sock on my leg. I used to put it all the way down there near my shoe. So I used to go before I bend down, take my shoe, take out my money. Used to put it like right underneath, not the feet of the palm of the feet, not the bottom of the feet, but like to the side. Because the bottom of the feet, I could rub the money in the rib. So I used to put her like to the side. But that's how I used to keep my money, and they never used to find it. So them fools used to fucking take me to the bathroom, and there would be like 4 of them fools trying to jump me. And that was the only way they could get me down, because I was just a rebel kid. I just didn't give a shit. But it also helped me that I grew up with older brothers, so I knew how to fight. I knew how to defend myself. But you can only do so much damage when 4 people is beating up on you. 2 are grabbing your hands, and the other 2 are just pounding on your face and your stomach. There's only so much you can do, man. And that's not me being tough. That's just keeping it real. No, I could fight. I'll be willing to fight all 4 of them if that's come down to it. But I knew that I was gonna lose the fight. That's a fact. It doesn't matter how you guys see it. If 2 of them pin your arms and the other one is punching you in your face and the other one's punching in your gut, the air is gonna come out. So, but I would not let my money get away from me. And so when I used to come home, because they would let us go, and then if the teacher sees us all beat up or blood up, they would send us to the nurse. And then once we got there, the principal used to come and they used to ask us what happened. I'd be like, nothing, man. We were playing soccer and I fell. That's it. So the teacher couldn't expel them, and we didn't get in trouble either. But they will call my mom after a while if it happens like constantly back to back. They will call my mom and say, "Oh, he's getting into fights, but he's not telling who he's fighting. We believe he's being jumped, but he's not telling us nothing." And my mom used to tell the principal, "He's not gonna tell you guys nothing. That's not the way he was raised." So that I got installed that at a early age. Like you shouldn't tell on people. That's not cool. Even though a lot of people have this saying when like, oh, if you were a gang member, you know what you were signing up for. That's one thing that is misconception, man, is wrong. Because I remember when I came to the hood, I was 13 years old when I got jumped to the hood, right? And I remember the neighborhood being different to what it is nowadays. I remember back in the days, homeboys coming to the house to drop off some money for for my uncle and be like, hey, can you guys take in this? Let them know it's for us, la la la. Or I remember homegirls and homeboys coming to the house like, hey, you know how he's doing? To check on you guys need anything, to check on my grandma, to check on my mom. I remember that very clearly. So when I got jumped into the hood, those rules and regulations, those things were still in play. You shouldn't rob people in your own neighborhood. You shouldn't tax people in your own neighborhood. You shouldn't be a bully to people in your own neighborhood. You should love them so that when you on a hot spot and the police is chasing you, you are allowed to go to the house, knock on their house, and they will let you in because you weren't stealing from them, you weren't bullying them, you weren't taking nothing from them, you know? So that's the way I grew up here. And when I got jumped to 20th Street, it was still that way, bro. I remember very clearly. It was never like, oh, this is the hood because this hood belongs to me, I'm gonna steal from them. It was never like that. It was never like that, man. So for me to see all this stuff going on nowadays where they're robbing people in their own neighborhood, they're bullying people in their own neighborhood, it's mind blowing to me. The old school rules didn't apply. So when people say, oh, you guys were gaming, but you guys know what you guys were getting yourself into. No, not really. Not necessarily, because when we got into the hood, I was pretty young, man. We knew eventually we were going to end up either in prison or death. We knew that. We knew that. But it was nobody ever told you, oh, if you didn't do exactly what they tell you in prison, they're going to clip your career, you're going to be done, this and this. Nobody said none of that. Or you're going to have to work for this, you're going to have to do this. It was never none of that stuff. So people cannot use, you know what you were signing up for when you got jumped in, because that's not how the game was played back then. When I got jumped into the hood, a lot of the old school rules still apply. If you see your enemy with their family, you don't put hands on it, you don't push up. If you see them with their wife and their kids, you leave them alone. If you see them with their mom, you're leaving them alone. And if your older homo calls your attention or get on you about something, you respect what that man just told you and keep on pushing. Nowadays, if you pull up to a youngster and you're trying to correct them about something, they're ready to down you. They're ready to kill you over. They're ready to shoot you over behind shit like that. So it was never like that. So when I got jumped into the hood, I got beat up by 3 homeboys, older homeboys. I remember I was 13 years old. I think the youngest homeboys that put hands on me was 21. The other homeboy was 24, and then the other homeboy was 26. So they didn't whoop my ass with love and kindness. No, they beat my ass like they were supposed to, man. You know what I'm saying? And there was no 13 seconds. I got whooped by old school 20 seconds, the old school count. The count when you feel like that shit is never gonna end. So now I got jumped to the hood. I started paying attention to everything the righteous homeboys who I felt were righteous homeboys did. So I started learning. And I was always thought, like, if you see older homeboys having a conversation regarding a situation in the neighborhood, you don't have to jump in a conversation, put your 2 cents in it. You don't have to. You shouldn't get involved and put your 2 cents into, because it had nothing to do with it. That's an older homeboys conversation. Back then, the rules that apply was like, if you're a new homie, your work counts only to certain extents. Another thing, you're not allowed to do drugs. You're not allowed to drink in the neighborhood. You're not allowed to just grab a pistol and just go and do your stupidity shit, because you don't know who you're gonna go and hit. So there were homeboys that used to just be like, hey bro, homeboy, check it out. If you're gonna grab one of these things, no, it's not a toy, no, it's not something you play with, and know that you're getting yourself into a situation that if you were to get caught, you're gonna do some time type of shit. Nowadays, these kids, all they have is pistol in their hands. All they're having is pistol. All they want to have is just pistol. As soon as you tell them something, they just pull out the pistol. You can tell them nothing. Back then, when the homie used to pull you to the side and be like, "Hey, little homie, you're doing this wrong. This is what you're doing wrong. I need you to correct this. La muchas gracias. I appreciate it. Gracias." And that was it. No, nowadays, if you pull up to a homie like, "Hey, little homie, check it out. You're doing this," they're ready to bust on you. So the rules didn't apply like to these kids nowadays like they used to apply to us. When I got jumped to the hood, I got schooled the proper way. You respect your elders. You respect your homeboys that paved the way for you. You respect everything that's above from you because they know better than you. They've been doing this for the longest. But you will also encourage, if you see something wrong, you should speak up. If you see a homie going down a dark hole and a dark path that's gonna lead him to a path of destruction, you should talk to the homie. And if the homie doesn't listen, then you should try to bring somebody else up so they can try to talk to him. You know what I mean? My barrio, my neighborhood was a no hard drugs policy whatsoever. Little homies wouldn't even allow to smoke weed back then. You could drink a beer or two, but back then, little homies around my era, that we weren't even allowed to smoke weed back then. That's how crucial that it was. We weren't not allowed to smoke weed. Nowadays, these kids do whatever the hell they feel like it. So the rules and regulations changed for a lot of them, for a lot of us back then to a lot of us now, man. That's the difference. We didn't see the stuff that we see now. Back then there was a chain of command you should respect and you will respect it. You will mind somebody. I was always saying you will mind somebody. You will respect something eventually, little homie. They don't care if it is this or that, but you will respect something, though. These kids nowadays, I see them talking to their mom like you a B, calling their mamas the B word, calling their sisters the B word, calling their grandmas the B word, talking to their everybody like they don't got no sense. That shit wasn't like that for us, man. It's sad to see this generation have gone to shit, to put it in mild terms, but that's what it had really come down to it. Because back then we respected the chain of command, we respected the rules that were established for us. Not now. When I became from the hood, why did I chose from the MS? Because at that time the homeboys weren't doing no bully shit. That's why I chose MS. The reason why I chose MS because when I used to see the little northerners, little kids hang up, they used to be bullies. They used to be some bully shit, making fun of people because they didn't speak English. They didn't doing that. And this is not throwing shots at any homie from any neighborhood or any clique, and it's not me putting shame on them, but 16 and 19 used to do the same shit, bro. I seen a lot of homies went to other sides. I seen a lot of few homies that were kicking over 16 come to the hood because the homies over there, they wouldn't speak to them in Spanish. It was always Spanglish, like always, all the time, because most of them were Americanized. They were Mexican Americans. They didn't want to speak Spanish. So all they wanted to talk was English. And if you were new and you were coming to the hood and you didn't speak English, I seen this many times. They were trying to embarrass you, trying to make fun of how you pronounce your words and all of that stuff. And that to me was never right. And that's why in our hood we always had a thing. Always speak Spanish. All the time we always spoke Spanish in the hood. It was, even though that we had homeboys that were born here and we had homeboys that grew up in the projects, we never had that way of talking English to the homies. Or if the homie wanted to say something in English when he was ordering them food, we didn't make fun of them. That was not our estilo. We used to embrace the homies. Hey, if you speak English, good. If you're not, then we teach you, bro. Whatever we can, we will teach you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by embarrassed. The homies, they didn't do the stuff when we were there. But a lot of things changed. Holy crap, I just seen a crash. I'm driving. That car just flipped. Woo-wee. Sorry guys, I'm driving. I'm going to pick up the wifey, but I just saw a car flip. But that's the crazy part, man. So that's the reason, another reason why I chose MS. Aside from having family from that neighborhood and feeling at home from that neighborhood, it was also because I didn't agree with that bullyingism that was coming there. If a homie to speak English, they look down on as less than a homeboy. That wasn't right, man. At least not to me. I never agree on it. Plus, I respected the homeboys' rules and the regulations that we have, the rules that we have established. The barrio come first, the homeboys come first. It was a known rule that we always follow. You know, a lot of people hated that. A lot of people hated us, and a lot of people always minimize us because of what the news and the media always put out there, that we're a bunch of rapists and all that stupid stuff. But it wasn't like that. If you get to know a homeboy, you will get to know that a homeboy is up an individual that will give the back of the shirt of his back if you needed it. That's the type of homeboys that we were. So when I hear like, oh, you were gambling, you know what you got yourself into, that's bullcrap, man. People use that as a way to make things right, to make it seem like whatever they were doing or whatever you got coming, you got it coming because you were a gang member. That's not right. A lot of people got into the hood not knowing what to expect to it, not knowing what to do. We got to the hood young. When I got into the hood, I was 13 years old. What did I know about life? I didn't know really nothing about life, man. I really didn't start understanding life until I went to prison. And it took me a long time for me to realize that life was a beautiful thing that you don't want to waste it by being out here being a knucklehead, gangbanging, doing stupid stuff. So that irks me when people say, oh, you know what you were getting yourself into. He had to come and he was a gang member. Nah, that's just the excuse that you want to use to make yourself feel better for the damage that you were doing, man. That's not cool. But guess what? At the end of the day, we all chose to be something or someone. If you had chose to be a soccer player, you would have got hurt, then you chose that life. We made a choice when I was a kid. I made a choice when I was a kid that didn't know nothing about life or nothing about nothing. I got jumped into the hood out of anger. Not even in a sense of obligation because my family's for there. I got jumped into the hood out of a sense of anger and revenge. To try not to do damage to those people that did damage to me. You know? So I didn't get jumped into the hood because I wanted to be famous and well known. That didn't come into play until later on in life when I started being around the homeboys and I started hearing my name ring, and then the homeboys to be like, oh, you so and so, you going off for her about you, bro. Ooh. Or when we used to go to lay and the homies were like, oh, you so and so? Oh yeah, I heard about you. That's when my mind started playing that trick that I want to be well known. I want to be known around the hood. I want to be known around the cliques. I want to be known. I want my name to ring on the streets. That's when that mindset came into place. And while I was doing time in prison, it became worse. It made it worse. I want people to know my name. I want people to know what I was doing. I wanted the homeboys to recognize my names, to know that my name was still in fear into people's life, that I was stolen. I was doing so much damage to society, to people, because I was a beast in my head. Because I was marero in my head, because I was one of the most dangerous gang members. The world most dangerous gang. Imagine that, just the saying of that. So that's the reason why I chose MS, like I said, for different reasons. Until I realized that was no longer for me when I was in prison, that I had a second chance of life, to redeem myself and to become something better and someone better. And when I came home, I took that chance, man. Even though a lot of people judge me and shit talk to me for choosing to let go, because they on their head I was still young. I should have kept gambling. I was barely on my 30s. But I know that 15 years would have put me down to like when I was 55. Another 20 years would have put me down when I was like, what, 60? That's not life, man. Being inside those cages, always having to watch your back because you never know when the next putazo is going to come from. So that's why I do this, and I came home to reconcile with my actions and to try to become a better person. That's why I do this YouTube. I don't do it just for the likes and the views and because I want people to pay me for the views. No, man, I do it because if I can just prevent one person from going to prison and experience that horrible experience in that place, then I did my part in the world. If I can help somebody not go through what I went through, then I did my part in the world. And I'm blessed to do that. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys got to know me a little better through my story. If you guys got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Let me know. With that being said, thank you guys for always supporting me, man. Like I always tell you, be kind to one another. Tell your loved ones that you love them because tomorrow is never a promise. Let's get it, mi gente.